Hey, welcome to the What the Wealthy Do podcast, where we pull back the curtain on what the wealthy do to build their wealth and show you how you can apply it while you're on your wealth building journey. I am your host, Stephanie Dorsey. I am the CEO and co-founder of Margins Capital, an investment firm where we focus on providing women and people of color access to an institutional quality portfolio of alternative investments. Today, we're going to talk about something that we sometimes overlook, but the wealthy never do, which is taking advantage of the opportunities you have access to, right? So the wealthy are quite fine living in their privilege and taking advantage of their friend who knows XYZ, or getting access to investments that the average person wouldn't get access to. And we talked a lot about tax mitigation strategies and stuff like that. And a lot of folks who are W-2 earners don't get access to those type of tax mitigation strategies, but you know what they do get access to? Corporate benefits. And that's what we're going to talk about. And I know it don't seem like real sexy, but there is gold if you sift through all of those benefits that if you work for a corporation that you get access to. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I do want to remind everyone that this podcast is not intended to give you financial advice. However, it is intended to give you financial education. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to talk about two corporate benefits today. And the first one is your 401k. No big deal. The second one is your employee stock purchase plan. So maybe that's helpful. Maybe it's not. I think it's going to be helpful though. It's goodness there. We have to normalize learning. All right, so your 401k. A lot of you, if you work at a corporation, they will give you access to invest in a 401k plan. And a 401k is basically something that was developed in maybe in about the 70s, when a lot of companies stopped giving pensions to folks because they realized it was real expensive. Y'all living too long. And ain't nobody got time for that. And so they shifted the responsibility for us planning for or taking care of ourselves in retirement to us. And they did that by offering us a 401k plan. And a 401k plan is an employee-sponsored plan that allows you to invest a portion of your salary pre-tax. Right? And then that money grows tax deferred until you start taking distributions on it at retirement age. Some companies offer a matching system. So that means some companies might say, we will match you 5%. Some of them even do tiered. I believe when I worked at Capital One, they would match you 6%. And if you hit that 6%, they would give you a bonus of an extra 2% or something like that, I think. Something like that. All in all, it ended up being like 7.5% match, which was super dope. But again, that means though, let me put this in real numbers. And I'm gonna use round numbers because it's just easier for me. So say you make $100,000 and your employee offers you a 5% match. That means they will give you $5,000, right? Only if you allocate $5,000 of your salary. Right? So in order to get the match, you have to match them, right? If you only decide, I'm only going to allocate 2% because, sister got bills or whatever, you're going to put $2,000 in your 401k. Your company is only going to give you $2,000. They're not going to give you the whole $5,000. They're just going to give you $2,000. And then that $3,000 is money you are literally leaving on the table. It's just like you just poo-pooed that free money, which is like, if someone was just like, here, girl, let me give you this $5,000, you would be like, no, I only want $2,000. That would never happen. It would never happen. And so you really need to take advantage of your corporation's match. Even if you got to move some stuff around, it's free money. You just got to do it. But okay, so that's that. Here's another thing that I recently learned of. Did you know that when you invest in a 401k, we all are probably aware of their limits, right? So the limit is, if you're under 50, the limit of putting in your 401k is $23,500. If you're over 50, you get a $7,500 kicker because they say we owe. I'm not 50 yet though, but you know what I mean. So they're giving you a chance to catch up, right? And so you have a limit of $31,000, which is really, really dope. Again, this money comes in, it is tax deferred, meaning it's pre-taxed. So if you make $100,000, you decide to save 20% if you're under 50 or 30% if you're over 50. That is money that's not going to be on taxable income. But again, note, another way to think about this is instead of the IRS taxing you on $100,000 if you're over 50, they're going to tax you on $70,000. So investing in your 401k, while you will pay taxes eventually, it lowers your taxable income today. So you get tax advantage today. And let me put that another way in terms of savings. So if you're over 50 and you put $30,000 into your 401k, since you're not paying tax on that, let's just say you're in a 25% tax bracket, that means that you get to save $7,500 in taxes. You get that? You get that? Good. It's a big deal. Like, almost $7,500. Again, this is money, right? And this is real money. And so these implications are real. Like, because they don't happen in terms of us writing a check, we sometimes don't feel that they're real, but they're real. Like, that's $7,500 that you don't have to pay to the IRS man, right? So again, 401ks are your friend. Here's another thing that I just recently found out about. Not recently, I found out a few years ago, but it wasn't like while I was still working in corporate America. I didn't know this. The maximum contribution that you can make in your 401k is not, if you're under 50, $23,000. It's actually $69,000, right? What? Yeah. And for people over 50, it's $76,500. Tell me more. You're like, what does that mean? Okay. If some employers' plans, it's not everyone, this may or may not apply to your job, but some allow for pre-tax contributions, so that 23 or 31,000 for, if you're over 50, and in-plan Roth conversions, right? Well, yeah. What is that? So that means if, for instance, we talked about all the things you're supposed to do, and then as you get more money, you do them again, right? So the first one, I don't remember the order, but it is you need to have an emergency savings. You need to be taking advantage of your 401k. You need to have an estate plan. You need to have a brokerage account. You need to be investing in alternatives, all of that, right? And that said, as you get more money, you're going to cycle back through, right? So the 401k is the same way. Like the first pass, maybe you start out at just hitting the match. Maybe if you're a 5-year-old, you start out with just sending 3% over there, right? And then you get up to 5%. Then you get up to 10%. And then, you keep going. So say you hit that 23.5 or 31,000 maximum threshold. Well, you get some more money. You're like, okay, I need to come back around and put some money. I have more money on top of that 23.5 or 31 to put in. And you can, if your employee allows it and the custodial plan allows it, put in more money up to the 69,000 threshold. And one way you can do that is checking with your employer and your custodian. But here's another thing you could do on top of that. You can put those after-tax contributions that you added to your 401k and roll it over into a Roth. Right? And you know what the benefit of that is? Multiple benefits. One, Roth, remember, you've paid taxes on it today, so you don't have to pay taxes on it tomorrow, right? Another benefit is we talked about adding that extra 30, 40 grand in there. It's probably not that high, but whatever, let's just go with me. You added the extra 30, 40 grand. Most of the time, since you're doing a conversion, you get to do that 30, 40 grand. But most of the time, there's a limit of $6,500 per year, right? So you can get around that. Again, all employers don't offer it. All custodial plans can't accept it, but it's worth asking. So reach out to your HR folks and Fidelity, or who is the custodian of your 401k, and see if it's possible. Because if it's possible, that is another strategy that you can use as you continue to get more money. Yay! So here's the mindset shifts about your 401k that I really want you all to like internalize. It's not just about retirement. It's also a tax shelter. The more money you put over there, at least pre-tax, it reduces your tax liability. And admittedly, because the tax code is set up for businesses and investors, if you're not that, this is something that's at your disposal that you can do to mitigate your tax liability. The next thing I want to talk to you all about is the employee stock purchase plan. So a lot of corporations, not all, but some corporations. So for all of you that do, and you need to investigate if your company offers this, especially it's really for companies that are public. I'm not really going to spend any time about private companies, but for those of us who work for public companies, they might offer a stock purchase plan. And that means that they will allow you to buy the stock of that company at a discount, somewhere around 10 or 15%. And so I used to do this when I worked at Capital One. And so what that means is, say I wanted to buy $1,000 worth of stock at Capital One, I can get that for the 15% discount. So that means I only pay $850, but I have $1,000 worth of stock. And so what I used to do is you could set the election up so it comes right out of your salary. And so every pay period, it would drop in my E-Trade account. And then what I would do is I would sell it. And so I would get that $150 every pay period, using this example. I cannot remember how much I used to spend. I think I spent the limit though. And so that's like an extra $300. I can't remember. Let's just say it is $300 a month. And all I had to do was just remember on payday to sell my stock. And so it's a wonderful hack for you to just to make some extra money with a very low lift. You do have to remember you will have to pay taxes on that at the end of the year. But I mean, if you're thinking about $300 a month, that's $3,600 a year. It's pretty negligible. You can even get fancy. And I wonder, this is me off the dome, figuring out using that money to invest or to be as a part of some kind of side hustle. I don't know. Because you're trying to figure out what side hustle you want to do. This could be a part of your side hustle, and you can use this to buy the thing or do the things that you want to do so that you can start to take advantage of the tax code. I don't know. But the point is, I want us to start to think creatively about leveraging some of the tools that are at our disposal. The other thing I want just to be careful of, you do need to remember to sell, or you just need to be thoughtful about if you're going to keep the stock. You don't want to be over-indexed in your company because that's a lot of extra risk and diversification risk, if that makes sense. So you're working for this company, your livelihood is attached to this company, and if you have a whole bunch of extra stock in this company, you do want to diversify that. So I would recommend selling, or at least being thoughtful about how much of the stock you want to keep in your portfolio. All right. So here's the takeaway. The wealthy don't leave money on the table. The wealthy take advantage of every opportunity they have. And I'm going to add another one. Ain't no fighting fair. We can't fight fair. Being fair and being all docile and whatnot is not going to improve our financial station in this world, improve our financial situation for our children and our family. So we absolutely have to pick up a brick and throw the brick if we need to. I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent about fighting fair, but we just need to use all the tools at our disposal to build wealth for ourselves. And especially if we're W-2 earners, we don't got much, but we do have these corporate benefits. So we're about to head into that time where you're about to make the choices. A lot of that happens at the end of Q3, early Q4. So I wanted to make sure in time this podcast episode, and so that you can take advantage of that election period. Next episode, we're going to talk about all of the savings accounts, the health savings account, the flexible spending account, and the dependent care, child care account. So you can think about how you want to play with those. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. And if it was, please share it with a friend. We appreciate your feedback. If you have any, DM me, let me know, girl and guy, what you think. And if this was helpful for you in particular, please give us a 5-star review and follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you next week. Bye.